Today, I want to go over the major world religions. I'm not going to go into great depth of detail on each one of these. Some of these will be very familiar to you, uh, others you may have never even encountered at any point previous. Um, but when we're looking at the humanities, we're looking at uh, human beings and how they live and interact. One of the main ways that people live and interact is through worship and religion. And so it is important that we understand the human race and individuals. We're going to understand the religions that they hold to. So let's just introduce ourselves to the subject. Today we'll explore the beliefs, practices, and significance of some of the most influential religious traditions that we have that shaped our culture and society across the globe. So I want to talk about more than just Western religion in this, although I will begin with a religion that begins in the Middle East and is very widely known as a Western style religion now, and that is Christianity. Christianity is the world's largest religion, and most of you are those who grew up in the South, so you're familiar with at least some of the tenets of Christianity. But here I entitled this Christianity, a Global Faith in the Teachings of Jesus Christ, because at the center of Christianity is the figure of Christ. So let's look at this. Christianity is the world's largest religion with over 2 billion adherents. Uh, is rooted, Christianity is rooted in the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. It is divided into various denominations, including Roman Catholics, Roman Catholicism, Protestantism, and Eastern Orthodoxy. The key beliefs encompass the deity of Jesus Christ, the Holy Trinity, which is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, salvation through faith, the Ten Commandments. This would be stemming from the Old Testament scriptures, the Sermon on the Mount found in the New Testament, uh, the emphasizing of love, forgiveness, and compassion. So this is the core of Christianity. Of course, um, much more detail can be given to Christianity than this, but this is a simple overview. If this were a class on religion itself, of course, we would spend an extensive amount of time talking about Christianity. But since this is a class on humanities, we will give the 30,000 foot view on Christianity, and there it is. Well, Christianity is closely related with the next religion that we'll discuss, and it is Judaism. Judaism, and the emphasis in Judaism is the covenant, the Torah, and the ethical foundations. So Judaism is one of the oldest monotheistic religions centered on the worship of one God, Yahweh. So the connection between Christianity and Judaism, as well as the next religion we're going to look at, they're all what are considered Abrahamic religions. So they have their root in a man named Abraham. And we learn about Abraham from the Old Testament scriptures, and the Old Testament scriptures are the foundation of Judaism. And also, what we're dealing with when we deal with Judaism and Christianity, we're dealing with a monotheistic religion. So there is one God. That is key and significant because it is it's a juxtaposition against those religions in the time of Judaism and even before, and some religions we'll discuss in just a few moments, that are polytheistic. So there's more than one God. So this is a monotheistic religion, one God. And it emphasizes ethical conduct, justice, and adherence to the Torah. When we talk about the Torah, what we're talking about is the first 5 books of the Old Testament scriptures: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. This is also called the Pentateuch. That's usually more of what a Christian would call it. The Torah is usually what is referred to by those who are Jewish adherents to Judaism. And the Torah are the foundational scriptures. Jewish history is marked by a rich cultural heritage, observance of the mitzvah, the commandments, significant religious festivals such as the Passover, Yom Kippur, and Hanukkah. Hanukkah is, of course, around Christmas time. Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement. The Passover is recounting what took place when God passed over and did not bring wrath upon the house of Israel, although God did judge Egypt. But what was going on at that time was that you had, of course, Moses leading the people of Israel out of Egypt. And during those events, they slaughtered a spotless lamb and put the blood of the lamb over the doorpost. And that night, when the death angel came, if he saw the blood of the lamb over the doorpost, he would pass over that place. Therefore, this is why they call it the Passover. Or some people say, well, they passed over the Jordan. Okay. It was during this time frame that this took place. But Judaism, of course, Abrahamic religion, like Christianity, of course, different from Christianity in that they are still waiting on their Messiah. Another Abrahamic religion is Islam. And this is the message of the Prophet Muhammad and the 5 pillars. So Islam is built around the message of Muhammad, a prophet from the 7th century CE, and the emphasis of 5 pillars that are central to the beliefs. And so even today, Islam is a growing religion, has nearly 2 billion followers all over the world. Islam begins, of course, in the same central area in which Judaism and Christianity began. It also spreads and spreads rapidly, particularly through North Africa, over into what is today, Spain, Portugal, those areas, into France, and continues to spread across the globe today. And then in the middle of this are 5 central beliefs that revolve around these five pillars of Islam, which include the Shahada, the declaration of faith, the Shalah, the prayer, the Shawam, the fasting during Ramadan, uh, the Zakat, the uh, charitable giving, and then the Hajj, which is a pilgrimage to Mecca. Mecca is in Saudi Arabia. And so, if you were an adherent to Islam, uh, you are going to follow these five pillars and you are going to try to make it to Mecca. I know during COVID and some of the things that were going on, they were making some, the religious leaders in Islam were making some provision for the pilgrimage, but there are still millions of Muslims who make the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. And, and of course, the Quran serves as the Holy Scriptures, and the Hadith continues or contains the sayings and actions of the Prophet Muhammad. So these are, I won't say these are more Western, but they are in comparison to the religions that we'll speak of next. The next one we're going to look at is Hinduism. Of course, this begins in India, and these Eastern religions, a lot of them stem out of India. But in Hinduism, it's based on ancient wisdom and diverse beliefs and sacred texts. And it's one of the oldest religions with its trace back to ancient India. Encompasses a vast array of beliefs, including karma. Maybe you've heard this in our popular culture, the law of cause and effect. If you do good, good will come back to you. If you do bad, bad will come back to you. Dharma, which is righteous living. The moksha, this is a liberation from the cycle of rebirth. So within Hinduism, there is the idea of reincarnation. And, you may spend this time as a fish, you may spend the next time as a human being in a lower caste, because the caste system has its roots in the Vedas, which is one of their sacred texts. Uh, but ultimately, the moksha is a liberation from all of this. It's a liberation from reincarnation. It's when you finally get out of that cycle. Hinduism uh, reveres a multitude of deities. So, whereas Judaism, Christianity, Islam, they are monotheistic. Well, this would be a polytheistic religion, each representing different aspects of the divine. Sacred texts include the Vedas, um, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is more of a narrative, telling a story, and then the Ramayana. So, Hinduism, beginning in the ancient India, and it is a major religion in the world, but an Eastern religion. And then also you have Buddhism, and the beginning of Buddhism comes with comes from Siddhartha Gautama's path to enlightenment and the core teachings. So Buddhism is founded by Siddhartha Gautama. It focuses on the Four Noble Truths, which address the nature of suffering, its origins, a cessation, and a noble eightfold path. So it's very much based on what one does in this life. This path promotes mindfulness. Um, Siddhartha enters nirvana after basically a period of, I believe it was 3 months of meditation. So a mindfulness, a compassion, and a non-attached, a detached way, which ultimately leads to a state of being called nirvana. And so the ultimate goal uh, of the Buddhist is to get to this sense of nirvana. You have the Buddhist scriptures, uh, including the Tripitaka and the Mahāyāna Sutras. So these are some of these is kind of the big five religions in the world. I mean, you could look at things like paganism. You could call paganism a religion. You could call secularism a religion, although they're not classical religions like we would think. Um, these that we have discussed are. There are many, many religions in the world, but these are just the big ones. And so I wanted to split this up into an Eastern religion and a Western, because if you're studying this humanities class and you're in Gadsden, at Gadsden State, uh, many of these you have not heard of before, and typically you have not heard of the Eastern religions. Eastern religions in the United States, probably prior to 1950, 1960, it would be very, very hard to find information on Eastern religions. You would have to go to a major university, some center of learning, and you might come across the concepts. But in the 1960s, Eastern religions started to be a little bit more popular in the United States, particularly among cultural elites. And now with the advent of internet and media of all kinds that you can learn about these things. I mean, we have things now like yoga that, 30 years ago, no one practiced yoga. But now there are people who practice yoga, and it comes out of this Eastern religion. So the Eastern religions encompass a wide array of spiritual traditions originating from Asia. These include the big two I told you about, Hinduism and Buddhism. Then you have Jainism, uh, Shintoism, Taoism, Confucianism, and Shintoism. Shinto coming more so from Japan. They often share concepts like karma, probably something that you've heard of, reincarnation, of course, you've heard of reincarnation, meditation, and the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment through different paths and practices. So, this is kind of a summation of what you would find in Eastern religions. And so, like I was saying, you don't often come across these because we look at our history and we view our history through uh, a Roman, Europe, American path. So if you don't study, other cultures and other histories, well, you're not going to learn about their ways of expressing religious belief. So um, it's just the nature of where we are, the things that exist. So want to get you at least just a little bit familiar with some of the Eastern religions. Of course, Western religions, you'll know very well. The major Western religions are those I discussed: Judaism, Christianity, Islam, rooted in the Abrahamic tradition. Judaism gave rise to both Christianity and Islam. Like I said, they're Abrahamic religions. These religions have significantly influenced Western civilization, shaping art, philosophy, politics, and morality. Of course, the key texts that you deal with when you deal with these religions are the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Quran. And so I want to conclude by just having you gain a deeper insight into these world religions, that our exploration has been provided, trying to provide a deeper understanding of the diverse beliefs, practices, and cultural contributions of major world religions. And these religions continue to play a significant role in shaping the world's spiritual and moral landscape. And so it's very important, if we're going to understand who we are as human beings, and we're going to study the humanities, well, these are the religions that shaped and have shaped us uh, throughout their existence and have had a huge impact on the world around us. I want to look quickly at just some discussion questions, questions you might see and might consider. Comparing monotheistic beliefs, how do the monotheistic religions of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism differ in their understanding of God, and what impact do these differences have on their respective practices and cultures? So think about the differences that are going on here. Um, and then texts and authority. How do sacred texts like the Bible, the Quran, the Vedas, the Triptych shape the beliefs and the practices of these religions? What role does religious authority play in interpreting these texts? Now, these are some pretty deep questions, um, and we didn't go into great depth of detail. But if I wanted to ask a bonus question, I mean, could you answer something like this? So take some time, screenshot this as you watch it, and consider some of these questions and what you might learn from them. Thank you for watching this lecture. I hope all is well with you, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.